and me, you're on Black Ops time. Between you and me, you're on Black Ops time. No official record, no oversight, no constraints. Sir, I know what you'll need. Wade pulled out his personal phone. I can get you 12 operators. All tier 1. All between assignments. Men I trust who understand sometimes justice doesn't wear a uniform. He paused. Combined confirmed kills of 380 across our careers. More in operations that don't exist on paper. The rules of engagement, sir. Wade met his eyes. Make them extinct. Every single one. Leave nothing but a cautionary tale. Harrison had enlisted at 18, driven by a simple desire to serve and escape the poverty of their small Texas border town. Jeanette had been 7 years older, practically raising him after their mother died of cancer and their father drank himself to death. She'd worked 2 jobs to keep him in school, to keep food on the table, to make sure he had a chance at something better. When he'd left for the army, she'd hugged him tight and whispered, "Go be someone, Harry. Make something of yourself. I'll be fine." She'd married Stephen Peterson, a good man who worked construction and coached Little League. They'd built a simple life. Nothing fancy, but filled with love. Harrison had visited when he could, watched his nieces and nephews grow through photos and video calls, sent money home when deployments paid well. The last time he'd seen them was 8 months ago, on his previous leave. Little Michael had shown him a drawing of Uncle Harry the soldier, complete with helicopter and rifle. Emma, the oldest at 8, had asked if he was scared in Afghanistan. He told her no, that he had a job to do and people counting on him. Now they were gone, all of them, butchered by animals who knew the system couldn't touch them. The flight back to the States took 36 hours. Harrison didn't sleep. He reviewed everything Wiley had sent. News reports, police files, intelligence on the Sangre Fria cartel. The organization had been built by Filiberto Short, a former enforcer for the Sinaloa cartel who'd gone independent 15 years ago. Short was smart, ruthless, and had turned brutality into a brand. His cartel specialized in human trafficking, fentanyl distribution, and assassinations for hire. But it was their immunity that made them truly dangerous. Short had cultivated relationships with corrupt officials across 3 states, built a network of protection that made him functionally invisible to law enforcement. When local cops got too close, they disappeared. When federal agents started investigating, evidence vanished and witnesses recanted. The video of Jeanette's murder had been a message to a rival gang in Oklahoma, Harrison learned. Stephen had witnessed the gang trying to muscle in on cartel territory near his construction site. He'd reported it to police, thinking he was doing the right thing. The cartel had made an example of him and his entire family. The video was still circulating on certain corners of the internet. Harrison watched it once, forcing himself through every second. He needed to see what they'd done. Needed to memorize the faces of the men who'd held the machetes, who'd filmed, who'd laughed. There were 4 in the video. Harrison committed each face to memory. They would be first. When the plane landed in El Paso, Wiley was waiting at a private hangar. The sheriff looked like he'd aged 10 years. His face was haggard, eyes red from lack of sleep. Harrison. They embraced briefly. "I'm sorry," doesn't even begin to cover it. "Tell me everything you couldn't say on the phone." They drove to a storage facility outside city limits. Inside one of the units, Wiley had assembled a small command center. Maps, photos, files scattered across folding tables. Sangre Fria has cells in 18 cities across New Mexico, West Texas, and Oklahoma, Wiley began. But they operate out of a central hub here in Cielo Seco. That's where Short keeps his headquarters, where the leadership meets, where they coordinate operations. Cielo Seco, Heaven Dry, their hometown. The cartel had been growing in the shadows for years, Wiley explained, using the town's proximity to the Mexican border and its struggling economy to recruit and operate. The 4 men in the video, Wiley pointed to photos. Richard A. Bear, Erwin Roach, Vince Mosley, and Heath Cross. All enforcers in Short's inner circle. They're based here in town, operate out of a compound northeast of the city. Former ranch property. Security? Armed guards, cameras, the works. But Harrison, Wiley hesitated. You can't just roll up on these people. They've got connections. The moment you move against them, someone will tip them off. Then I won't move against them officially. Harrison studied the maps. How many people know I'm back? Just me. Keep it that way. My team arrives tomorrow night. We'll need a base of operations somewhere off the grid. Wiley nodded slowly. Your family's old property. The ranch 30 miles north. It's been abandoned for years, but the main house is still standing. Remote, private. No one goes out there anymore. Harrison remembered the place. 20 acres of scrubland where his father had tried and failed to run cattle. Where Jeanette used to bring him to escape their father's drunken rages. It seemed fitting. Perfect. Now show me everything you have on Short's organization. I need names, locations, operations. Every piece of intel you've gathered. They spent hours going through files. The cartel structure became clear. Short at the top, with 3 lieutenants who managed different territories. Under them, cell leaders who ran local operations. And at the bottom, dozens of street-level dealers, enforcers, and runners. The thing is, Wiley said, even if you take out the leadership, the organization will survive. They've got redundancy built in, succession plans. You'd have to dismantle the entire network to truly stop them. That's the plan, Harrison said quietly. All of it. Every cell, every member. I'm not here to wound them, Wiley. I'm here to erase them. The sheriff looked at him for a long moment. I can't officially help you with this. You understand that. I do, but unofficially, Wiley pulled out a key. That storage unit 3 doors down has equipment that officially doesn't exist. Confiscated from drug raids over the years. Never made it into evidence. And I'll make sure I'm looking the other way when I need to be. You're risking your career. Your life. Wiley's jaw tightened. Jeanette used to babysit my daughter. Those kids call me Uncle Wiley. And I had to tell their teachers, their friends' parents, that they were gone. That the people who killed them would never face justice. He met Harrison's eyes. So you do what you need to do. And if anyone asks, I'll swear I never saw you. The next evening, Harrison stood at the abandoned ranch as 3 unmarked vehicles rolled up the dirt road. He watched 12 men emerge. Warriors he'd served with in the most dangerous places on Earth. Men who dropped everything and flown halfway around the world on the word of the commander they trusted. Gilbert Sandoval came first, the communications specialist with a gift for electronic warfare. King Nicholson, the sniper with 47 confirmed kills and a supernatural patience. Adam Maddox, explosives expert who could make C4 dance. Guillermo Clark, medic and hand-to-hand combat specialist. Roland Fowler, intelligence analyst with an eidetic memory. Jerome Romero, weapons specialist who could field strip any firearm blindfolded. Ahmad Rubio, the breacher who'd been first through more doors than anyone could count. Lucas Terry, the pilot who could fly anything with rotors or wings. Rashad Ward, psychological operations expert who understood fear as a weapon. Jarrett Knight, logistics coordinator who could source anything anywhere. David Adkins, the second-in-command who'd saved Harrison's life in Mosul and asked no questions when called. And then there was Filiberto. No, Harrison caught himself. He'd almost confused the name. That was the enemy. These were his brothers. They gathered in the ranch house's main room. Harrison had spent the day clearing out debris, setting up basic necessities. Now, with the sun setting through broken windows, he briefed them on everything. He told them about Jeanette, about the kids. He showed them the video once, just once, but enough. He watched their faces harden, saw the shift from curiosity to cold purpose. This is black ops with no official sanction, Harrison said. If we're caught, there's no rescue, no extraction. We'll be hung out to dry. Anyone wants to walk away, no judgment. None of them moved. David Adkins spoke for the group. You saved my life in Mosul. King took shrapnel mint for Adam and Hellman. We've all bled for each other. Your family is our family. Your war is our war. Gilbert added, besides, sounds like these bastards need killing. We're pretty good at that. A few grim chuckles. Harrison laid out maps on the floor. The cartel has roughly 200 members. We're 12, but we have advantages, training, discipline, and the element of surprise. They think they're untouchable. We're going to teach them they're not. What's the plan? King asked. 3 phases. Phase 1. Reconnaissance and intel gathering. We need to know every member, every location, every operation. Phase 2. Systematic dismantling. We hit their revenue streams, their supply lines, their foot soldiers. Create fear and chaos. Phase 3. Decapitation. We take out the leadership in a way that ensures no one ever tries to rebuild. Roland studied the maps. With proper planning, we can be in and out of most targets in under 5 minutes. Quick, surgical, devastating. What about the corruption? Rashad asked. The politicians and cops they own, we expose them. Every dirty deal, every payment, every cover-up. When we're done, there won't be anyone left to protect what's left of this organization. They spent the night planning, each man contributing expertise. Gilbert hacked into the local police network, finding surveillance gaps and patrol patterns. King scouted sniper positions, overlooking key cartel properties. Adam identified vulnerable infrastructure points. By dawn, they had the outline of a strategy. It would take time, patience, and precision. But Harrison had 120 days. More than enough. On the 3rd morning, Harrison drove into Cielo Seco alone. He needed to see the town, feel its rhythms, understand how deeply the cartel had embedded itself. The place looked the same as he remembered. Dusty streets, faded storefronts, people moving with the resigned pace of economic defeat. But there were differences if you knew where to look. New trucks parked outside certain houses. Young men with expensive watches and empty eyes. A tension in the air, an unspoken understanding that certain things were not discussed. He passed the warehouse on Route 9. Someone had spray-painted over the broken windows, a half-hearted attempt to hide the horror that had occurred inside. Harrison felt rage, threatened to break through his careful control. He breathed slowly, channeled it into focus. At a diner on Main Street, he ordered coffee and listened. The conversations around him were cautious, coded. No one mentioned the cartel by name, but everyone knew. They spoke of problems and the situation and those people. They talked around it the way people in occupied territories always did. An old woman at the counter caught his eye. She studied him for a moment, then looked away quickly. But he'd seen recognition. She'd known his family. Everyone in the town, this small knew everyone. As he left, she followed him outside. Harrison Reed, she said quietly. You're Jeanette's little brother. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry about what happened. We're all sorry. She glanced around nervously. But you should leave. They'll know you're here soon enough. And then? Then what? She shook her head. Just go. There's nothing here worth dying for. Harrison looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, the resignation. This was what the cartel had done to his hometown. Turned good people into frightened ghosts. Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but I'm exactly where I need to be. That afternoon, Harrison and David conducted reconnaissance on the compound where the 4 enforcers lived. The ranch was indeed heavily secured. 8-foot fences, cameras on every corner, guards at the gate. A small fortress. But every fortress had weaknesses. Guard rotation every 6 hours, David noted, watching through binoculars from a ridge a mile away. 2 men at the gate, at least 4 roving patrols. Multiple buildings, main house, barracks, what looks like a warehouse. Power supply, single line from the main road. Generator as backup. Harrison smiled. Then we cut the line and take out the generator simultaneously. Create confusion. When? Soon. But first, I want them to know I'm coming. That night, Harrison returned to the warehouse on Route 9. Using equipment from Wiley's cache, he set up a simple display. 6 white crosses in the parking lot, each marked with a name. Jeanette, Stephen, Emma, Jack, Sarah, Michael. Then he spray-painted a message on the warehouse wall in letters 10 feet high. 120 days. Starting now. He didn't sign it. Didn't need to. When the cartel saw it, they'd understand someone was coming for them. The psychological warfare had begun. By morning, photos of the memorial and message had spread through the cartel's network. Harrison monitored their communications through Gilbert's intercepts, confusion, anger, and underneath it all, the first hints of fear. Filiberto Short called an emergency meeting of his lieutenants. Find out who did this. And when you do, make an example that makes the Peterson family look merciful. Harrison listened to the recording and allowed himself a cold smile. Short had just told him exactly where the meeting was happening. The main compound in downtown Cielo Seco, a converted mansion that served as the cartel's nerve center. That's our first target, Harrison told his team. Not to attack, to infiltrate. I want cameras inside that building. I want to hear every word they say, see every move they make. Gilbert and Rashad took point on the operation. Using the town's maintenance infrastructure as cover, a fake gas leak inspection, they gained access to the building's exterior. Within 2 hours, they'd planted listening devices in 7 rooms and microscopic cameras in 3 more. The intelligence flowed in immediately. Names, locations, operations. A complete picture of the cartel structure. But it was a conversation between Short and one of his lieutenants that made Harrison pause. The FBI knows about the Peterson hit, the lieutenant said. But Director Kelly Juarez is keeping it buried. Our quarterly payment is due next week. Good, Short replied. And the state police? Captain Megan Craig is still on payroll. She'll redirect any investigations. Harrison recorded everything. This was the leverage he needed, proof of corruption at the highest levels. When the time came, he'd use it to destroy not just the cartel, but their entire protective network. 2 weeks into the operation, Harrison made his first move against the enforcers. Richard A. Bear liked to visit a particular bar in town every Thursday night. He'd drink, intimidate locals, and leave around midnight, always alone. This Thursday, Harrison was waiting. He followed Hebert's truck out of town, keeping distance. When A. Bear turned onto a lonely stretch of highway, Harrison accelerated past him and triggered a spiked strip across the road. Hebert's tires exploded. The truck swerved, stopped. A. Bear emerged cursing, reaching for his phone. Harrison was already there, materializing from the darkness. One precise strike to the throat, and A. Bear went down gasping. You don't remember me, Harrison said quietly, zip-tying Hebert's hands. But I remember you. Warehouse on Route 9. You were the one who filmed. Recognition and fear flooded Hebert's face. Please. Did they plead? Did my 8-year-old niece plead? Harrison dragged him off the road into the desert. What happened in the next hour would haunt Hebert's surviving colleagues for months. Harrison made sure of it, made sure there would be photographs, evidence, a message. When he was done, he left Hebert's body arranged in the center of the compound's driveway, positioned so the morning guards would find it immediately. The message was clear: we're inside your defenses. No one is safe. Panic rippled through the cartel's ranks. Short ordered increased security, authorized his men to shoot first and ask questions later, but only made them more paranoid, more likely to turn on each other. Over the next weeks, Harrison and his team struck methodically. They hit stash houses, destroying drugs worth millions. They intercepted supply shipments, burning them before they could be distributed. They systematically eliminated foot soldiers, always leaving evidence that pointed to the cartel's own internal conflicts. The beauty of it was the uncertainty. The cartel couldn't tell what was an external attack and what was internal betrayal. Short started suspecting his own people, ordering interrogations and punishments that only accelerated the organization's collapse. Meanwhile, Harrison's team mapped every aspect of the network. Roland's perfect memory cataloged hundreds of names, faces, and connections. Gilbert's surveillance revealed meeting patterns and communication protocols. King identified high-value targets from his sniper positions. By day 40, they'd eliminated 18 cartel members and disrupted operations across 2 states. The organization was bleeding money and manpower. But Short was no fool. He realized someone was conducting a coordinated campaign against him. Someone with training and resources beyond a typical rival gang. The kill shots were too precise, the tactics too sophisticated. Military, he told his remaining lieutenants. This is military. Find out if the Peterson man had any connections to the armed forces. The question reached Wiley's ears through his police contacts. He warned Harrison immediately. They're digging into your background. Won't take long before they connect the dots. Good, Harrison said. I want them to know. I want them to understand exactly who's coming for them and why. Fear is a weapon, and it's time they felt it. That night, Harrison left another message, this time at Short's personal residence, a luxury estate on the outskirts of town. He bypassed security cameras with ease, crossed the grounds like a ghost, and left a single item on Short's bedside table while the cartel leader slept. A photograph of Jeanette's family, taken at Emma's 8th birthday party. On the back, Harrison had written, "You took mine. I'll take yours." 80 days remaining. When Short woke and found it, he reportedly smashed furniture for an hour. Then he put $1 million bounty on the head of anyone connected to the Peterson family. But Harrison Reed was already a ghost. No official records, no recent photographs, no digital footprint. The cartel was hunting a specter. The second phase of the operation intensified. Harrison's team divided into 3-man units, hitting multiple targets simultaneously. In one night, they destroyed 4 distribution centers, eliminated 2 cell leaders, and stole operational records that detail the cartel's entire Western supply chain. The stolen records revealed something unexpected, a connection to a political figure higher up than they'd suspected. Senator Rosa Golden, who'd made her career on anti-cartel rhetoric, was actually receiving monthly payments to block federal legislation. Her name appeared on dozens of transactions. "We use this," Rashad suggested. "Leak it strategically, turn public opinion, force federal intervention." But Harrison had a better idea. "We wait. Let the senator think she's safe. Then, when we've finished dismantling the cartel, we make sure she goes down with them. Maximum impact." By day 60, Sangre Fria had lost half its membership. Short consolidated his remaining forces, pulling everyone back to Cielo Seco for what he called a defensive stand. It was exactly what Harrison wanted, all his enemies in one place. The 3 remaining enforcers from the video, Erwin Roach, Vince Mosley, and Heath Cross, were assigned as Short's personal security. They rarely left his side now, paranoid and jumpy. Harrison watched them through surveillance feeds, studying their patterns. They thought the compound was safe, that their numbers provided security. They were wrong. On day 70, Harrison's team made their most audacious move yet. Using information from their surveillance, they identified when Short would be meeting with his remaining lieutenants. All his leadership in one room. "We could end it now," Adams suggested. "One missile through that window, and the organization collapses." "Too quick," Harrison said, "and too merciful. I want them to know it's coming. Want them to feel the fear they inflicted." Instead, they hit every business the cartel operated simultaneously, 17 locations across 3 states, all struck within a 60-minute window. Bars, clubs, restaurants, front of every kind. Harrison's team moved through them like a hurricane, destroying property, seizing records, leaving chaos in their wake. The financial damage was catastrophic. In one night, Short lost an estimated $20 million and the infrastructure of his entire operation. The next morning, the cartel leadership gathered in emergency session. Through surveillance, Harrison watched them argue, accuse each other, panic. Short's authority was crumbling. His organization was dying, and everyone knew it. "Who is this person?" Short screamed. "How does one man do this to us?" Erwin Roach, the enforcer who'd personally held the blade on Jeanette, spoke up. "Whoever he is, we need to draw him out. Make him come to us." "Ow!" Roach smiled cruelly. "We find someone else he cares about. Someone we can hurt until he shows himself." Harrison's blood went cold as he listened. Through his remaining contacts, Roach had discovered that Harrison had been friendly with a local teacher, Marlene Mack, before he'd enlisted. They dated briefly in high school. Nothing serious, but enough of a connection for the cartel to exploit. "She lives alone," Roach continued. "Easy target. We take her, make it public. He'll come." Short considered it. "Do it." Harrison immediately contacted Wiley. "They're targeting Marlene Mack. We need to get her out now." But when Wiley went to Marlene's house, it was too late. Neighbors reported seeing 3 men force her into a van 2 hours earlier. The cartel posted a video on social media. Marlene, terrified but unharmed, tied to a chair in an unknown location. Roach's voice off camera. Harrison Reed. We know who you are now. We know what you've been doing. You have 24 hours to surrender yourself, or this woman dies the way your sister did. And we'll keep taking people until you do. Harrison watched the video 3 times, his mind racing. His team gathered around him. It's a trap, David said. They want you to come in emotional, make mistakes. I know. Harrison studied the video frame by frame. But they made mistakes too. Look at the background, those windows, that wall texture. I know this building. Gilbert enhanced the image. Water tower visible through the window. Cross-reference with. The old textile factory, Wiley said, looking at the screen. Northeast of town. Abandoned for years. Not anymore. Harrison pulled up satellite imagery. Perfect place for a trap. They'll have it surrounded, waiting for me to walk in. So what do we do? King asked. Harrison smiled, the expression cold and predatory. We spring their trap, just not the way they expect. The factory sat in a depressed industrial area, surrounded by empty lots and abandoned buildings. Harrison spent hours studying approaches, mapping sightlines, identifying positions. The cartel had perhaps 20 men stationed around the building, confident in their numbers. They were about to learn why numbers didn't matter against a Tier 1 operator and his team. At midnight, the assault began not with Harrison, but with Adam's expertise. A series of precisely placed charges destroyed the factory's 4 main entrances simultaneously. In the chaos and confusion, King opened fire from a position 1,200 yards away, taking down 3 cartel gunmen with shots so fast they sounded like one. Ahmad breached through the north wall, while Jerome and Guillermo provided suppressive fire. The cartel's defensive positions collapsed as attackers seemed to come from impossible directions. Harrison entered through the roof, rappelling down into the main factory floor where Marlene was being held. Roach and 2 other enforcers stood guard, spinning in confusion as explosions and gunfire erupted around them. Harrison dropped into the space like a falling shadow. One enforcer went down before he could raise his weapon. The second managed to fire twice, bullets going wide, before Jerome's precise shots ended him. That left Roach, who'd grabbed Marlene and held a knife to her throat. Stop! Roach screamed. Come any closer, Annihilate. King's bullet entered through the factory's broken windows and removed the top of Roach's skull. The shot had traveled 1,200 yards through a gap of less than 8 inches between structural beams. It was impossible. King did it anyway. Harrison cut Marlene free. Are you hurt? She was shaking, but unharmed. How did you? Who are you people? Friends of friends, Wiley said, emerging from the chaos with 2 deputies Harrison knew were clean. Come on, ma'am. Let's get you somewhere safe. As they extracted Marlene, Harrison's team finished clearing the factory. Of the 20 cartel members who'd been waiting to spring their trap, none survived the engagement. It had taken 17 minutes. Gilbert collected phones and communication devices. These guys were in constant contact with the main compound. When Short realizes they've gone dark, he'll know his trap failed. Let him know, Harrison said. I want him scared. I want him making mistakes. The team exfiltrated to the ranch, leaving no evidence of their presence. By dawn, the factory was a crime scene that would baffle local law enforcement for months. Short's response was predictable. He fortified his compound, called in favors from every corrupt official he knew, and begged for help from his cartel contacts in Mexico. But word had spread through the criminal underworld. Sangre Fria was dying, and no one wanted to be associated with a sinking ship. On day 90, Harrison made his move against the corrupt officials. Using evidence gathered over 3 months, he created comprehensive dossiers on every politician, law enforcement officer, and federal agent who'd protected the cartel. Gilbert uploaded it all to secure servers and sent copies to major news outlets, federal investigators, and internal affairs divisions. Within hours, the scandal was national news. Senator Rosa Golden's office was raided. FBI Director Kelly Juarez was suspended pending investigation. State Police Captain Megan Craig was arrested. The protective shield that had made Sangre Fria untouchable shattered overnight. Federal task forces descended on Cielo Seco, but Harrison had no intention of letting official channels claim victory. This was personal, and it would end on his terms. With law enforcement focusing on the corruption scandal, Harrison had a brief window. Short and his remaining loyalists, perhaps 40 men, had barricaded themselves in the central compound. They had weapons, supplies, and a desperate determination to survive. Harrison called Colonel Wade on day 100. "How's it going?" Wade asked. "Almost finished, but I need one favor. Air support for a precise strike. Nothing official, nothing traceable. Give me coordinates and a time window." On day 110, Harrison's team surrounded the compound. They'd spent weeks mapping every entry point, every guard position, every defensive measure. Now, at 3 a.m., they moved into position. The assault was a masterwork of coordination. Gilbert disabled security systems. King eliminated sentries with suppressed shots. Ahmad breached the outer walls while Adams' carefully placed charges created multiple entry points. The cartel's defenders fought back, but they were street thugs facing professional warriors. Room by room, building by building, Harrison's team cleared the compound. Some cartel members tried to surrender. Harrison took them prisoner, but showed no mercy to anyone who'd been directly involved in murders. Short and the two remaining enforcers from the video, Vince Mosley and Heath Cross, made their stand in the main house's reinforced panic room. They'd equipped it with supplies for a long siege, confident they could outlast any attack. They hadn't counted on Adams' expertise. The demo experts studied the room's design and identified a structural weakness, a ventilation shaft that provided just enough access. Harrison addressed them through the intercom system. "Vince Mosley, Heath Cross, Filiberto Short, you killed 6 members of my family. You filmed it. You laughed." Short's voice came back defiant. "You got lucky, but you can't touch us in here. And eventually, the real federal agents will arrive. You'll have to answer for what you've done." "The evidence of your corruption is already public," Harrison replied. "No one's coming to save you. And this room isn't as safe as you think." "What are you?" Adam triggered the charges. The explosion was precisely calibrated, enough to blow open the panic room's door, but not enough to kill the occupants immediately. Harrison wanted them alive. The 3 men staggered out, disoriented. Harrison's team secured them quickly, zip-tying hands and feet. "Here's what happens now," Harrison said, standing over Short. "Every cell phone you've ever made, every text, every transaction, we have it all. Every murder, every deal, every victim. We've documented everything. It's being delivered to the FBI and media right now." He turned to Mosley and Cross. "You two specifically, the Peterson family. We have the video, and we have 17 witnesses who'll testify you bragged about it. You're going to spend the rest of your lives in federal prison, and even the guards will know what you did to those children." "Please," Cross begged. "We were just following orders." King, who'd lost his own daughter years ago to a drunk driver, struck Cross hard enough to break teeth. "Following orders. The Nuremberg defense. How original." Harrison restrained King with a look, then focused on Short. "Your organization is destroyed. Everyone who worked for you is either dead or in custody. Every corrupt official who protected you is facing prosecution. You built an empire on fear and blood, and in 110 days, I've reduced it to nothing." Short, realizing he had nothing left to lose, spat blood. "So kill me then. Get over with." "Oh, I'm not killing you," Harrison said. "Death will be too kind. You're going to live. You're going to go to federal prison with all your crimes documented. And every single day, you'll know that one man whose family you killed for sport, destroyed everything you built. You'll spend decades behind bars knowing you were beaten completely." He leaned closer. "And in prison, without your money and protection, surrounded by people who hate cartel butchers, I give you 6 months before someone does to you what you did to my nieces and nephews. But it won't be quick. They'll make sure it's not quick." The fear in Short's eyes was satisfying. Harrison had seen that same fear in Jeanette's eyes in that video, in Stephen's eyes as he'd watched his children die. Now it belonged to the men who'd caused it. Federal agents arrived at dawn, tipped off by an anonymous call. They found the compound in ruins, 43 cartel members dead or in custody, and complete evidence of the entire criminal enterprise laid out for prosecution. They also found Short, Mosley, and Cross tied up and waiting with a note, gift wrapped for justice. The Peterson family sends their regards. The investigation that followed was the largest organized crime prosecution in the region's history. The evidence Harrison's team had gathered was so comprehensive that defense attorneys had little room to maneuver. Short received life without parole. Mosley and Cross received the same, housed in the maximum security federal prison known for its harsh treatment of criminals who hurt children. Senator Golden resigned in disgrace and faced multiple felony charges. FBI Director Juarez was fired and indicted. Captain Craig and 7 other state police officers were arrested. The corruption network that had protected Sangre Fria for 15 years collapsed completely. Harrison stayed for Short's sentencing, sitting in the back of the courtroom. When the judge read the verdict, Short turned and locked eyes with him. Harrison nodded once. It was over. Before leaving Cielo Seco, Harrison visited the cemetery where Jeanette and her family were buried. The graves were well maintained, covered in flowers from townspeople who'd loved them. He stood there for a long time, remembering. I kept my promise, he said quietly. Every single one of them. They're gone, Jeanette. All of them. And the town is safe now. Wiley joined him, the old sheriff looking years younger now that the shadow had lifted from his town. You did something no one thought possible, Wiley said. You brought justice when the system couldn't. I brought vengeance, Harrison corrected. Justice would have been them never touching my family in the first place. Maybe. But sometimes vengeance and justice are the same thing. Harrison's team left town separately over the following week, returning to their official lives and assignments. None of them spoke about what had happened in Cielo Seco. It was a chapter closed, a mission completed. Colonel Wade welcomed Harrison back with a handshake and nothing more. The Black Ops leave ended officially, and Harrison Reed returned to Delta Force operations. His service record showed he'd spent 120 days on emergency family leave. Nothing more. But word spread quietly through military circles about what had happened. About a Tier 1 operator who'd dismantled an entire cartel in 4 months. About justice delivered with surgical precision when the system had failed. 6 months later, Harrison received a letter at his base. It was from Marlene Mack, the teacher the cartel had taken. She was alive, had testified against the surviving cartel members, and had started a foundation in Jeanette's name to help children of violence victims. You saved my life, she wrote, and you saved this town. I don't know how you did what you did, but I know why. Your sister would be proud. Her children would be proud. Thank you for showing us that evil doesn't always win. Harrison kept the letter. On dark nights, when memories of that video tried to surface, he'd read it and remember that he'd done what needed to be done. Not in the way the system intended, not in the way society sanctioned, but in the way that worked. Jeanette's killers were gone. Every single one. Her town was free. And somewhere, Harrison hoped she and Stephen and those 4 beautiful children were at peace, knowing they'd been avenged. Justice, vengeance, or something in between, it didn't matter what it was called. What mattered was that it had been delivered, complete and final, exactly as promised. 120 days, 12 operators, 200 cartel members, and 1 mission accomplished.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed